Superhero cartoons come in all shapes and sizes, whether it's Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse on the big screen or Spectacular Spider-Man on the small screen in our homes. The point is, there is a wide variety of media to choose from within this genre. And if you ask me, I think this is one of the few areas that DC dominates more than Marvel. We all know how much Marvel has ruled popular culture with the Marvel Cinematic Universe throughout the 2010s, and even though it's not as popular as it once was, real OGs remember the hype that followed every Marvel release following the first Iron Man movie. On the other side of Hollywood though, the DC Extended Universe was seriously flopping with a set of interstellar garbage drops following Superman vs. Batman. This was really a line of losses leading up to the fight against Steppenwolf, and this just goes to show how much of a gap there was in terms of the success and quality of movies from these two. Nevertheless, one side of the spectrum that DC looked to have held its ground against Marvel is with their animated releases. That's because I feel like DC has always had a better catalog of animated shows and movies to offer audiences than Marvel, who in my opinion has more misses than hits in their animated universe. Their flagship shows for me are The Spectacular Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, and at the top of the food chain, Avengers Mightiest Heroes. That was honestly one of my favorite shows growing up, and perhaps I could make a video on it, but another YouTuber, GeekTones, already made an awesome video on it, which you should probably check out after this video. The point I'm making here is that, until now, DC has been running circles around Marvel with their animated shows. But that all changed in 2021 when Marvel announced and released the animated series, What If? With this single series, the tide was now turning to favor Marvel, which is surprising because how could you accomplish all of that with just one series? But I guess that's Marvel for you. What if T Challa was part of the Guardians of the Galaxy? Or what if Thor was an only brother? These were some of the stories that were created for the first season, and they lived up to the expectation. Because with What If, anything you could think of became a reality. Season 1 presented audiences with this innovative yet simple premise, essentially bringing to life any story or event that had ever or could ever be thought of by the producers of the show. These inter-universal events would all be overseen by Uatu the Watcher, a cosmic being who belongs to a race of aliens who just observe and nothing else. Through his character, the audience is given an omnipotent narrator who guides them through the happenings of each episode through a universal glass pane that allows him to see the happenings in other worlds. But by his oath, he is not allowed to interfere, just to observe. Nonetheless, we were given an awesome finale in the first season where he was forced to break the oath to save the multiverse and the homicidal AI Ultron. That was where the first season ended, and that's where season 2 picked up, because as a Christmas present, season 2 of What If sought to fix the disastrous run of MCU releases that had preceded it. And it did so with an electrifying first episode that put us in a reality where Nebula is a Nova Corps soldier and has to protect the planet from the destructive hands of Ronan the Destroyer, who is not in a mood to play. After a series of backstabs and teaming up with some familiar faces, Nebula is able to rescue the planet from its imposed seclusion. This episode set the tone of what we were expected to see this season, as I don't think anybody would have ever constructed a story about Nebula being a Nova soldier with Yondu as a past boyfriend. This is where the show begins, and just like last season, it's filled with episodic episodes which turn out to be serialized the further on you watch. For instance, the first 4 episodes feature stories built around Nebula, Peter Quill, Happy Hogan, and Iron Man. However, we learned from episode 5 going that the real star of this season, just like last season, would be Captain Carter. Season 2 gives us an overarching plot with Peggy as our main character from the moment we look back into her life as Captain Carter. Picking up from where we left off previously, she develops a strong bond with the Black Widow as she's now on a mission to rescue Steve Rogers, because in this universe, he never becomes Captain America, but rather is presumed dead after the war against Nazi Germany. In actuality, he is the Winter Soldier. When Peggy finds out that he's alive, she defies Nick Fury and SHIELD's orders to stay away by trying to help Steve, who is in the Hydra Stomper suit programmed by the Red Room. Ultimately, Steve sacrifices himself to save Peggy and Black Widow at the end of the episode, but that's not it, because right before the episode itself ends, Peggy is swallowed into another vortex and sent to another world where she wakes up and finds herself before Nick Fury and Scarlet Witch in the 1600s, which sets up our season finale very nicely. In the next episode, which I think was the most exciting in the season, we see the creation of a new superhero, Kahori, who belongs to a tribe of people living in pre-colonial America, more specifically in the 15th century. Kahori is a new addition to the MCU roster through What If, and her character does not disappoint. Born from an accident when a young Mohawk lady falls into the Forbidden Lake as she and her brother are being chased by Spanish conquistadors, Kahori ends up in another dimension where she finds out that she has gained new powers alongside everybody else in this new village. She nurtures her powers over some time, all the while thinking how to escape this new land so she can go back and help her brother and village. Unfortunately, the conquistadors enter this new utopia dimension, and that's when Kahori unleashes her powers on them to protect the people of this new world. After this, she realizes that it's time to return to the village to go and rescue her people. She tries to convince the other superpowered people in this world to help her on her quest, but they are happy to remain in this world and urge her to actually do same. But she tells them that she cannot leave her people to suffer on their own because now she has been given powers that may be able to save them. Hence, she returns to her village on her own to help her own people, and she manages to actually disrupt the conquistadors until they start to overpower her. But surprise, surprise, that is when the people from the sky dimension come in, give her a helping hand, finally freeing the village from the scourge of the conquistadors, and paying Queen Isabella a visit. Kahori is a very interesting character just based on her cultural origins alone, as she originates from the Mohawk people. To my knowledge, her introduction to the show was very unique, and I feel like her character could also pave the way for more mainstream characters like herself from other traditions to come into the MCU. So let's start a petition to get Kweku Anansi from African folklore into the next season of Uatu. You can let me know in the comments of any person or entity from a lesser known tradition that would make a great addition to the story. Skipping the Hela episode because I haven't watched the Shang-Chi movie yet, but bringing it up because it will be of use later, it's time to check the penultimate episode of the season, which saw our favorite Peggy Carter in the Elizabethan era because Scarlet Witch transported her to their universe to help them deal with the problem of the sky kidnapping people and sending them wherever. This proves to be unsuccessful, and eventually, Hela, who is the monarch of this universe, gets swept away by one of these time rifts, which makes Thor the king, and he blames Captain Carter for this tragedy. This leads to her escaping from the king's court to save herself from being hunted by the Kingsmen. She grows up with Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, and a few more others, and they learn that the dimensional rifts tearing this universe apart are being caused by someone who is not from this timeline being there. This ultimately makes the universe unstable and its destruction imminent. The group makes a last-ditch effort to steal the Time Stone from King Thor to find out who the frontrunner is. That is the person who belongs in another time. While this is all going on, Peggy gets on shaky terms with the Watcher because of his lack of involvement in everything that is happening, since it is quite opposite from her disposition. She is a person who literally jumps headfirst into anything and everything without doing much thinking of the consequences. Whilst the Watcher has a strict code of conduct that prevents him from directly interfering with the events he sees in other universes. This is where I start to get slightly put off by Carter's headstrong character, because I get where she's coming from as this freedom-fighting character whose job it is to save people. But just as she does her job by saving people, the Watcher also does his job by doing the opposite. His oath forbids him from involving himself in any events that happen, and it's something that is kind of out of his control. A little bit of comic book reading would reveal to Captain Carter what happened the last time the Watcher tried to interfere with the course of events in the universe and those consequences. Then she would realize that this thing is bigger than just herself. Luckily, the team is able to outwit King Thor in his court, and this causes the revelation of Steve Rogers being the frontrunner, and it is revealed that he was originally from a timeline in the future that was involved in a battle with Thanos, and he accidentally got sent over here when he struck the Time Stone with Thanos' bluff. This reveal makes Carter sad as she realizes that she's going to lose Steve for like the 100th time, which is something that actually happens a lot in this show. I mean, at this point in time, it could be a running gag. But Carter returns Steve to his universe and is ready to head home as well when she is confronted by Strange Supreme. Remember him? Last season's antagonist turned good guy. And he explains to her that he needs her help capturing the people within the universe who qualify as universe killers, to make the galaxy a safer place and as a penance for what he did last season. Without any hesitation, Captain Carter jumps into a portal to help Strange capture these variants that got lost, and this is where the captain meets the newest addition to the team roster, Kahori. Yes, she's back for the finale. Are you excited yet? However, Kahori reveals a bitter truth about what Strange Supreme was doing. And surprise, it turns out that he was using Captain Carter, and I won't lie, I saw this coming from like a mile away, which Peggy should have too if she just asked more questions. It is revealed that Strange Supreme is capturing both good and evil people to feed them to the Forge in an attempt to bring back his old universe and specifically his dead partner, Christine. This is the premise of the finale, and I must say, I've had a few issues with it, but let's see what they are. My biggest concern with the finale is how heavily the plot carried and protected our two heroines in an attempt to stop the Dark Sorcerer Supreme. This version of Strange spent centuries studying the dark arts and absorbing interdimensional beings to gain more power in the first season. Then he challenged the Asian one and overcame an alternate version of himself. What I'm trying to say is that this version of Strange is very strong, and he should be on another level entirely in comparison to our two female leads. However, Kahori, who just received her powers and is now understanding the global world around her, and Captain Carter, who is a human being with super serum in her blood, still managed to put up a very equal fight with Strange Supreme, and I'm just baffled. This man was able to kidnap Hela, Thanos, and young Peter Quill, but when it comes to a newly made superhero and some lady on steroids, that's where he draws the line. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know how powerful Kahori is supposed to be, but they did a good job of placing her around the multiversal levels of strength because she was able to stay on par with Strange throughout the fight, and even managed to surprise Infinity Killmonger, who had all the Infinity Stones, mind you, with a snap of her wrist. And this is another problem I had with the finale, even though it may seem insignificant. I don't understand how Killmonger, dressed in a costume with the literal rocks that control the fabric of everything, could be overpowered so easily, especially when Captain Carter becomes such a formidable force with those same rocks that she is able to take on Strange almost single-handedly, with Kahori providing some cover as a supporting character. Again, this shouldn't be possible because Killmonger with the same Infinity Stones was just tossed aside like he was Hawkeye. These power-shifting shenanigans continue until all the heroes and villains decide to give their weapons and tools to our heroines for them to use to stop Strange. Unfortunately, the multiverse is saved, and Strange's universe is recreated without him ever existing inside. A thrilling end to a very thrilling continuation of the What If story. With the end of the season, I feel as if What If has cemented itself as a classic superhero animated series. It proved that the success of the first season was not luck, which speaks volumes for the team that is handling the creative direction of the show. One thing that I really liked about this season was the way the episodes were released. One episode a day was released from the 22nd of December through till the 30th. It's not anything out of this world, but this is one of those small touches that adds some flair to the normal way of doing stuff. I was impressed overall with the season, and I enjoyed most, if not all, the episodes in general, just that certain episodes were not as entertaining as I expected. One problem I had with this season is that I felt we were relegated to the same version of characters for too long, because the point of What If is that anything can happen since we essentially have access to the happenings in an infinite number of universes, but we still get storylines that feel too safe or close to home. That being said, What If continues to hold its place in my mind as the best project to come out of Marvel since its first season, and the only one I've watched since then as well. It seamlessly combines wonderful stories with different variants of characters that are very entertaining and have allowed Marvel to have at least one franchise on the screen that isn't terrible. I also feel like this is the best animated series that Marvel has put out recently, and overall too. While it won't be enough to topple the empire that DC has built with its plethora of engaging shows, it's a step in the right direction. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 Infinity Stones, but that's it from me. If you enjoyed this video, let me know about your thoughts, praises, and criticisms of the series. And then you can click over here to watch a video on the terrible performance of the last season of Rick and Morty, and over here to watch the transformation of Omni-Man from Invincible. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Tune out.